Hello and welcome. You're listening to the SPAG Dialogue podcast.
Hello and welcome. You're listening to SPAG Dialogue, and joining us on World Contraception Day is Aruna Chawla, the founder of Salad. Thank you for joining us, Aruna. It's a pleasure to have you on our podcast.
Thanks so much, Ignore, for having me over.
Salad is a very unique brand that has really come out in the market. It's something that has not existed in India, at least before. Just to get started, and especially because we're talking about contraception on World Contraception Day, what was the motivation for you to really get out there and build Salad?
First off, I think it's so surprising and almost appalling that there aren't more women led condom brands in the country. I know that Salad is only the second, which is so surprising because 48% of our audience is population is women. The burden of preventing STIs and unplanned pregnancies falls unfairly on women, and yet there are very few contraceptive brands that actually focus on the needs of women. I am a buyer psychologist by profession, which means that I work with brands across the country and the world, and have them understand how their customers are making purchase decisions, what is the psychology behind those decisions, and how these brands can use these insights in their marketing, digital customer journey, and sales channels. I was working with an intimate health and wellness brand last year, based out of the UK, and I thought I'd just do some research for the Indian market as well. The facts that I found and the statistics that I stumbled upon blew my mind away. Only 5.6% of the country uses condoms, 47% uses no form of contraception at all. And that is insane, right? I think on the surface of it, you can leave it be and say that, oh, there's not enough sex education. But I think it's pertinent for us to dig deeper. And that's what I did last year. My idea was at that time, before I started my survey, that condoms are really cheap, right? Even at the other, like, even at a luxury high price point level, they're super cheap compared to all other forms of contraceptives, whether it's a birth control or an IUD or a vasectomy, etc. They're external, so there is no, it's not invasive at all. They don't alter your hormonal structure. It's used and through, and they're the most easily accessible. It especially in India, there is last mile accessibility for hospitals, pharmacists, doctors, etc. We're not talking about the quality of them, but condoms are available. The government pushes for their use so much. Despite that, if statistics are so low and people are preferring to go to doctors, spend so much more, and have their body go through more invasive forms of contraception, it's really surprising, right? That was the founding idea of the survey I conducted. Over a 2 month long survey, I spoke to a lot of people about what form of contraception they use, if at all, what other hesitations they have, etc. And the biggest factor that came out was that although physically condoms are available everywhere, there's a huge lack of social access. Which means that if you're going to a pharmacist or a doctor to ask for a condom, you are scared of the judgment that you're going to get from the pharmacy. For men and for women, both. Like for women, anyway, it becomes, where's your husband? Why is he not here to pick it up? As if you can't carry a condom yourself, right? So I think that kind of social accessibility, or that just a terrible condom shopping experience, is what my idea is, leads to very low adoption rates as well, where you don't want people to see you are carrying a pack of condoms or you're going and buying one. So you feel that the more expensive, more invasive form of contraception, where you're working with gynecologists, endocrinologists, etc., is safer for you because you prevent that judgment coming into you, right? That was actually the starting point of launching a brand like Condom, where I realized that I have a very unique experience as a buyer psychologist in creating online shopping experiences that could potentially be judgment free, secure, safe, and educational, and a huge business opportunity to tap into India's potential growth. Salad came out with that idea where, we want to create a world where buying a condom is not a nightmare. We are an education first brand. So although you can't go to a pharmacist, spend 30 minutes, learning more about the different kinds of condoms, you can do that on our website because we have so much educational content, whether it's about the ingredients that go inside a condom, how do you use it, what are the loopholes, etc., etc. So you can actually have that kind of experience around in our website itself.
I think it is extremely needed at this point of time as well, right? But I think one of the themes that we're also touching upon on Contraception Day is the fact that a lot of women do not have the choice. And I think what we really need to do is to create a more informed world so that people do know that there is a choice that they do have and how they can go about kind of putting it out there, speaking to their partners, really getting an option to be able to use that choice. And how does one really do that? How does one go about creating a more informed world?
Absolutely. So, this is actually very, very interesting. And this also ties into the fact why we're named salad. And I'll take you through it, right? In the research I did, I found that every single condom brand focuses on a pleasure first approach. Whether it's in their marketing, whether it's in the R&D, you'll have things like mutual climax, last longer, dotted, ribbed for pleasure, etc. We don't have a health first approach. Psychologically, what that does is when you keep something pleasure first, it becomes discarded, because anyway the burden of making sexual contraception decisions lies unfairly on men, even though women are impacted by it, right? As women, like, majority, we let the man decide because we're either scared to go out, or we don't have that kind of freedom or
That's quite the
acceptability.
irony, right? Because the majority of contraception methods that exist are actually for women and not for
Absolutely.
men. So the fact that
Yeah.
the choice lies with the men is actually quite unfair.
Yeah, which means that if the man, like in majority cases, one, if you're not pleasured in that experience, you're going to discard that product altogether. Two, if the man is not pleasured, and that's a higher chance, he's going to discard the product and the woman will have no say. The idea of naming it salad was, and our entire marketing is based on a health first approach, where our idea is this is not discardable. This is not an option you have to use this to keep yourself safe. And also, when you make something safety first, it becomes less of an option, and it becomes more of a, this is a necessity, this is going to be part of our daily shopping list anyway, right? So our R&D, the kind of product quality we have, our marketing, everything focuses on that health first approach. And I think that's really pertinent, right? Through these tiny marketing decisions, tiny brand strategy decisions, they have a lot of psychology insights that we've built into it. We've done a lot of work in that, because otherwise we could have just picked up what other brands are doing, focus on a health
Absolutely.
first or pleasure first approach, make it like a very cool meme calendar, and just made it a really fun brand. But we don't want to do that. The idea is that more people should start using contraceptives, and
Absolutely. And
especially, yeah,
you invest a lot in sex education as well. Like
yeah,
just following your Instagram page, for instance, there's a lot that you're talking about, right? And you're actually actively putting yourself out there to educate people and tell them that, it's high time we start talking about sex, and not until you start having it, but even before that, like you really need
yeah.
to know what you're getting into, and you need to be aware of all the options that are available to you. Just talking on the sex education aspect of it, and when we talk of contraception and sex education together, I think it's very, very important that something like this starts at the grassroots level. Is there something you think that can be changed in our current system, which can actually promote sex education in a way that's more holistic?
I think very pertinent point. And I must mention that 15% of our profits are committed to sex education in schools and colleges in India. We have a sex educator on board who's creating workshops on different aspects for different age groups, education levels, etc. But I think it's pertinent to understand that the sex education we or any brand or any organization in India provides is culturally sensitive. I think the big challenge is that we're picking up Western ideas of sex education and implementing them to a society that may not always be ready for it. So if we're saying that explore your body, etc., the whole Western idea of exploring your sexuality, etc., it's not going to be possible in India because we don't have those private spaces, right? We live with families, we share our rooms. So that kind of education is not going to be possible. But what we can get to is, for example, when children are just learning their body parts, we remove the shame around the private parts as well. Because we'll teach our 5 6 year old children that this is our nose, this is our hand, but we'll say, oh, pee pee, we don't talk about it, we don't talk about your vagina. They don't know these names, right? So we build in that kind of shame and that narrative entirely. And I think these small steps are pertinent. So we may not talk about sex itself at that age, or we may not be comfortable talking about sex itself at 14 15. I think we should, but only when we get to there. But right now we aren't in that situation. Parents may not be comfortable having those conversations at all. So maybe sex education for parents as well, in terms of how do you speak to your younger children. And we're working on those kinds of workshops, workshops on your children's a teenager, you yourself are not comfortable with early sex, but how do you have a conversation with your child that's informed and respectful? So I think so.
That's such an important aspect that you've highlighted, because actually, more than the teenagers being educated, it actually should be the parents being educated,
Yeah.
because they need to know how to be able to have a conversation with their child. I think every single person today that you do meet, at least in our age group, you meet a millennial. I don't think that our parents have ever spoken to us about sex.
Yeah, and I think like, I think like it's very different. Like, they came from very different world. I always feel very empathetic and kind towards my parents, the elders, because they didn't have that kind of experience either. So it seems like they were pushed into the world with no knowledge about sex, and they had to figure it out themselves. And they may not be able to try, have those conversations with us because they don't know how to. But we grew up with the internet, right? We had so much access to knowledge, resources, pornography, maybe, although like highly debatable how good it's done. But there's so many different kinds of education and resources we had, that even if we're not highly educated, we have some kind of better education compared to our parents. So, maybe with our children, we'd be able to have those conversations early on. We'd be more conscious of those things. So I think like we need to adopt, a very kind, empathetic approach that's culturally sensitive. So, if I was to go to a village school to talk about sex education, I don't think it would be right for us at that point itself, where the village is quite conservative, to talk about different kinds of sexuality. Maybe what we could do is talk about, how do you look after your private parts? How do you keep them clean and healthy? If you have urges, what does that mean? Where are babies coming out from? What's happening when a person's getting married? What is that first night mean? So, I think like we need to have that kind of cultural sensitivity as well. I mean, I think it would be unfair for me as a sex educator, for example, to go to a place that's really conservative, that does not have these options, or, that kind of openness to talk about homosexuality and heterosexuality, and say that I've done my part, now I'm leaving. I'm leaving in an entire village to topple down with those kind of questions at that time. And I think that's unfair. We have to be more sensitive towards different environments, different kinds of cultures as well, in that sense. Because we come from a lot of privilege. We have to recognize the fact that people like you and I, we come from a lot of privilege where we can make these decisions, but not everybody does. And at Salad, our goal is to ensure that that kind of education is culturally sensitive, so that we can extend that privilege as much as possible.
Absolutely. In fact, recently someone said to us that, the fact that people complain about side effects from, contraceptive pills, even that is a privilege, because they at least have access to those
Yeah.
contraceptive pills, which a lot of a majority of our population does not. And that really made me think. And what you're saying is, absolutely in correspondence to that. And I think that is so important. So, just Aruna, this was such a lovely chat. But before we wrap up, I want to know that on World Contraception Day, we are talking about, informed choice, and we're talking about the fact that every pregnancy should be a planned one, and that's really our end goal at the end of the day. What is your evaluation of the current situation, and what do you think we need to do to move ahead? And what's that one message that you'd like to give on World Contraception Day?
I feel really, really strongly about this. I read statistics recently that from March to December 2021, there are about 20 million pandemic babies that will be born, and 21% of them are unplanned pregnancies. That is appalling, especially in our country. The burden of childcare, child rearing, pregnancy itself falls unfairly on women. I think I've been very, very, very lucky, touch wood, to have the opportunity to delay a pregnancy to when I'm ready for it, so that I can focus on my career, I can build a life for myself, I can make informed decisions about my partner. I think that's the kind of opportunity that should be extended to all women. And I think contraception is critical for that. Our country will grow when that 48, 49% of our population can make decisions of their careers, professional lives, personal lives on their terms, and not forced into pregnancies, and, have those 2 to 3 years of their life at least wiped out of their career options. And contraception helps. You can plan when you want a child, or if you want one at all. But that shouldn't have to stop you. You have a child when you're ready for it. And it's unfortunate that we still in a world where we say all women have to be mothers, only then they'll be complete. That's not true. Not everybody wants to be a mother. And contraception helps you lead your life to the fullest. So I think it's critical for us to, at least for the ones who have that opportunity, to exercise that option. And for those who don't, for those who don't, it's our responsibility to extend that kind of opportunity to them to as much as possible.
Thank you so much, Aruna. This was such a good chat. Thank you so much for joining the SPAG Dialogue podcast. And to all our listeners, this was Aruna Chawla, the founder of Salad, and I'm Iknoor Kaur, the editor of SPAG Dialogue. Keep listening.
Thank you for listening. If you'd like to tune in to more such conversations, subscribe to the SPAG Dialogue podcast or visit our website spagdialogue.com.